Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into one of history's creepiest mysteries, the dancing plague of 1518. Imagine waking up one day and being unable to stop dancing until you literally dropped dead. Sounds like something out of a horror movie, right? Well, it actually happened. Let's uncover the terrifying truth behind this bizarre event. In July 1518, a woman named Frau Troffea stepped into the streets of Strasbourg, France, and began dancing uncontrollably. Within days, dozens more joined her, men, women, even children, all caught in the same unstoppable frenzy. They danced for days without rest, their feet bleeding, their bodies exhausted, but unable to stop. By August, nearly 400 people were trapped in this nightmarish dance, and at least 15 had danced themselves to death. So what caused this horror? Scientists and historians still debate it. Some say it was mass hysteria, a psychological breakdown triggered by famine, disease, and extreme stress. Others blame ergot poisoning, a moldy fungus on rye bread that causes hallucinations and spasms. It's basically natural LSD. And then there's the wildest theory, cursed by Saint Vitus, the patron saint of dancers, as punishment for their sins. Whatever the cause, the result was pure nightmare fuel. Here's the craziest part. Local leaders thought the solution was more dancing. They hired musicians and cleared public squares, believing the dancers needed to burn out the mania. Instead, it just spread the plague further. Imagine being so desperate, you encourage people to dance to their deaths. It's like something out of a twisted fairy tale. This wasn't even the first time it happened. Similar outbreaks occurred across Germany, Switzerland, and the Netherlands for centuries. In Italy, a phenomenon called tarantism had people convulsing like they'd been bitten by spiders. Were these all mass delusions? Toxins or something supernatural? We may never know. But as the dancing plague took over Strasbourg, people were desperate for a cure. Enter a man named Jacob Longinus, a doctor who believed he had the answer: dance it out. He might have been onto something. After all, the dancing plague wasn't just a strange medical mystery. It was a cultural phenomenon. People weren't just dancing randomly. They were performing intricate steps in a trance-like state, sometimes leaping up to 3 feet in the air. It looked like a bizarre mix of ballet, break dancing, and maybe a little bit of Beetlejuice. And like any good party, it started with a bang, or rather a whirl. The first recorded outbreak happened in July 1518 when a woman named Frau Troffea broke into an uncontrollable jig right in the middle of the street. At first, onlookers were amused, but within days, the jig was up and things got really weird. The woman was dancing non-stop, seemingly possessed by an invisible force. And soon she wasn't alone. As the plague spread, entire families were taken down by the dancing sickness. Parents watched helplessly as their children danced themselves to exhaustion and even death. And it wasn't just a quaint, quirky sight, it was a horrifying spectacle. The dancers' feet bled, their faces contorted in pain, and some even died right in the middle of their dance. What exactly was happening here? Was it a medical mystery, a mass delusion, or something else entirely? Well, the dancing plague continued to mystify scientists and historians for centuries. One theory blames ergot poisoning, a fungus that grows on rye bread and causes hallucinations and convulsions. Another points to Saint Vitus, the patron saint of dancers, who some believe cursed the town as punishment for its sins. But perhaps the most fascinating explanation is that it was simply mass hysteria. You see, between famine, disease, and religious fervor, life in 16th century Europe was pretty stressful. And some believe the dancing plague was a psychological escape, a way for people to cope with the horrors around them. Whatever the cause, the dancing plague was a terrifying ordeal for those who experienced it firsthand. And as the death toll rose, people became desperate for a cure. Enter the man who would become the plague's most unlikely champion, Dr. Jacob Longinus. He might have been the only person in town who didn't break down and dance. And instead of prescribing bed rest and leeches, he went right to the source of the problem and prescribed more dancing. Strangely enough, it seemed to work. Loggins believed that by dancing out the plague, so to speak, the afflicted could be cured. And while that might sound insane, it wasn't totally off the mark. Dancing can be a form of catharsis, a way to express and release built-up tension and emotion. And who knows, maybe a little bit of jiggling could help those suffering from the dancing plague calm down a bit. But not everyone was so lucky. Many died before they could find the cure, dancing their way to a gruesome end. So what do you think caused the dancing plague? Mass hysteria, toxins, or a curse? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Thanks for watching. See you next time.